presentation that I did in 2018, where I critiqued not sitting government, but a system in place where the police council is dominated by the party in power and the government in power. And for that matter, we could not have an independent police operating. Because definitely, they're in your hands and you could move them. You could move the IGP anywhere, anytime. And the commissioners could be moved anyhow. The president at any point in time could instruct where a particular commissioner should be, because it is part of the constitution. And therefore I critique that system. I think from that point, looking at the people at the forum or at the workshop, and the fact that defense intelligence and other people, the CID, the police corpus and other people were there, once you begin to talk about this kind of things in a tough way, and especially in uniform, as an assistant commissioner, you are on national security radar, and they'll be watching you. And even after my presentation, a lot of friends, even from their own side, called me to say, look, be careful, they are looking out for you. The least thing you do, they'll take you on. And so I wasn't surprised.
I see.
And earlier on, I had said that a very senior member of government had threatened me on a platform that I shared with him for expressing my opinion on what constitutes civil uprising. We were all discussing. After a while, he came back to say he's off the line or he's off the mark. He must be brought to order. So all these things played on my mind, and I knew where it was coming from. I have a whole book that will be launching very soon, and I must be frank with you. And I'm working on it. I'm finalizing it. It's been edited at various places already. I've talked about my deal at the BNI. I've talked about some of the inhumane treatment over there. I've talked about the fact that they do not allow lawyers there, and some of the things that some of my colleagues told me about them, because remember during the second arrest, they put all of us together in one custody. And therefore, we were able to interact and share ideas as to what happened to each of us, which I've put on paper. And
tell me a little bit about that.
I want to, for instance, say that in some cases, some of them were beaten.
Were you beaten?
Nobody could touch me.
Why do you think they couldn't touch you?
Because they knew I know them very well, and therefore they could not do that to me. But they did it to others. And for instance, they took people's secret codes on their phones and accessed and forced them, which should have been done at the court with a court order. But they tortured some of them, and that's their own testimony, and they gave it even in open court.
Quickly. No, but I need to go on to Zoom now, where Professor Appiagyei has been, Professor Appiagyei has been on for quite a while. He is a professor of law, an associate professor of law at the School of Law, University of Ghana, Legon. Professor Appiagyei, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Great. And I do apologize for keeping you on for this period, but thank you. Appreciate your patience. Now, you've been following the conversation in the studio this morning, specifically on the outcome of this case that has been going on for a little over 3 years now. These 6 persons were going to appeal this sentence of death by hanging, 3 who have been acquitted and discharged. Now, the man whom we've highlighted over the period, ACP Dr. Benjamin Agojo, whose lawyer is in the studio, Martin Pebo, makes a strong case about this particular targeting of him being an attempt to silence other public officers who want to speak about the ills of governance. I found out your take on this, the outcome of this case so far.
Thank you for having me. I think the case is a victory for democracy. It's a victory for the rule of law and a victory for human rights. And at the same time, it's very unfortunate that Dr. Gojo should endure these challenges from the states for so many years. And from the narrative and the facts that have been spelled out, the decision of the courts, it clearly shows a violation of at least two of his rights: right to freedom of expression and freedom of assembly. And as a result of violation of these freedoms, his right to dignity has also been violated. And if you also look at it in the context of the fact that he was interdicted and he wasn't on full salary and he wasn't able to work. This is a consultant for the UN, he works for the UN, so on. So that meant that he couldn't do take such responsibilities as well. He certainly would have dampened his spirits, and there is the need for compensation, for reinstatement, and even to be given any promotion that he would have deserved when he was in office. I understand he's on retirement now, but this could still be done, because I know there are some cases where posthumously people have been promoted. And so looking at the way the matter has panned out, I took time to read the judgment, especially concerning where his case comes into the picture. And it clearly shows that they didn't have the evidence to have proceeded with the case at all. So if you look into the context of his vociferousness, his ability, freedom to speak his mind, and so on, one may infer that his open-mindedness, his readiness to speak about injustice and what is wrong in a system may have accounted for the way he was treated. And so it's important that we take this into account in discussing the Agojo story, and to come to the conclusion that, as I heard Professor Jampo say, to respect freedom of expression and not to gradually lead or allow the state to be slip into a police state, because there are indicators of that. In looking at our human rights record for the past 4 or 5 years, we are slipping, we are going down the ladder. In some cases, we are described as a weak democracy, in some cases as a flawed democracy, and so on. And so, in some respects, I could also say that Dr. Gozo could fall into the case of a prisoner of conscience, somebody who speaks his mind and challenges authority, not in a way as to provoke a coup d'etat, as he was labeled to have done. And we also need to take into account the fact that if we don't speak out against such actions by the state, we may end up supporting the state to continue to do these things. Because it is not only Dr. Gozo. We have the Oliver Bamawo case. We have statements by Minister of National Security talking about those who talk about coup d'etat and so on, specifically targeting academics within the university community for doing such discussions, and which he believes is a recipe for destabilization of the country. This is a case of securitization, trying to imagine a non-existential threat, and as a way of justifying the use of excessive force to control the situation and bring it under control. It's just a question of allowing people to vent their concerns and for the government to hear and to respond to them. That is what governance is about. So we don't expect to call ourselves a democracy, and we are not ready to allow people to talk about issues, because at the end of the day, let's be on the lookout. Very soon, U.S. State Department report will come out. Amnesty International human rights report will come out, and so on. Even my own students, we are putting together a human rights report. It will show that Ghana's human rights record is going down, and that is not good for the country. So in a country where you live in, if you refer to social contract theory, I think Professor Jampo will know that better than I do. But from the legal angle, John Locke was saying that don't give all your rights. He was challenging Prop's view, don't give all your rights to the Leviathan, because you need to keep some of your rights so that in case of a violation by the Leviathan or the government,
Can just kick him off.
you can fight the government and even overthrow the government. If you refer to the U.S. Constitution, it recognizes the need to change government where these excesses can be present. The French Revolution talked about that. So it's an important element of democracy that we criticize and we're able to respond to the criticism, but not to suppress free expression, demonstrations, and so on. We know what the police have also been doing in terms of brutalizing demonstrators and so on. And the IGP had to come in to say, please, you are going too far, allow them to demonstrate. And the IGP only went as far as saying that, allow them to demonstrate. No sanctions, no disciplinary proceedings against those who brutalize the demonstrators. So if we are not careful, we will end up in a situation as we're limited to being gossiping, as Professor Jampo has said. And that is where it will lead us into the culture of silence. And we are moving towards that space. And so we need to be very careful and we need to speak up so that Dr. Agozo's case will be an example for us to always make sure that we respect such people, and we all should have the courage to say things when they are going wrong, and to also to praise the government when they are doing right. It's not just criticism's sake. We have talked about situations where the government is doing well. For example, the Ashama case, which yesterday the committee issued the report. The report is very positive. It's just the next step is implementation. In fact, some of us were not expecting that the committee would have done anything good, would have even sat and come to a conclusion. So this is something positive.
But you know that on that score, you and I last night in private were having a conversation about that report and some of the loopholes in there, which could have been done right. So yes, it is good, but it doesn't wholly address the concern that we're hoping the committee's work will address with respect to the military's actions in Ashaman. That you agree, correct?
Definitely I agree, yes. I don't know, it's not the subject matter for discussion. Now, I just wanted to slip in that point, but yes, there are some other issues that we can talk about with respect to the reports.
But you make an important point. That in fact, it's an important element of democracy that we criticize government to the effect that government only has the mandate to rule because the people surrendered our power to government through part of our power through an election to government to rule. So definitely, I mean, when the president talks about we being citizens and not spectators, that was an invitation to criticize, is it not? And what we are saying now.
Exactly, yes.
And as we speak, the concern is...
I go...
Prof, I lost you a bit. If you could just make that point again.
Yes, I was saying that I agree with the question you put to me. And I'm saying that if you look at the basis of Dr. Agojo's case, that he was proposing or supporting an Arab Spring or suggesting that Arab Spring conditions existed in the country, that is not agitating for a coup d'etat. Arab Spring is a popular people's revolution, and you cannot stop the people from challenging government. Sovereignty lies in the people, and it's the people that elect government. So where there are excesses, where the government is not responding to the needs of the people, such an uprising is not a bunch of military officers who take up arms to win power and they represent their own interests. It's the people themselves who spontaneously go out and challenge the government, and it could lead to an overthrow of government. And that is a people-led revolution. That is different from a military coup d'etat. And so he's expressing his views on the Arab Spring was definitely within the bounds of his right to freedom of expression and the right to organize demonstrations or freedom of peaceful assembly. Thank you.
Appreciate the time. Thank you very much. But I've also, Professor Tia, before I let you go, I've got indication that indeed the lawyers of ACP Dr. Agojo have the indication of appeal, they're seeking some compensation of a sort for him, as you indicated. So Lawyer Martin Pebo is here with us. You indicated, Lawyer Martin Pebo, that you're going to sue for malicious prosecution. You're going to sue the state.
Yes, it's on the table, considering it. That's the area of the law that gives compensation to citizens. That's a court to give compensation to citizens once it's found that the state activated the criminal justice system without justification, like in this case. So let's say, when we say malicious prosecution, so let's say Touchwood, but Mr. Kojo Poku goes to report Professor Jampon to Legon Police that he has beaten XYZ, or let's say he has beaten Mr. X. Mm-hmm. He knows it's not true, Touchwood, but he tells them, no, it's true, arrest him. I was there when he did it. Then he gets him arrested, then he concocts evidence, then the case goes up to a while, and Professor Jampo gets acquitted. In this case, the thing is that once it shows that Kojo Poku did not allow the police to do their independent work, but he kept briefing down their neck and concocted evidence and got Jampo tried, but finally Jampo won, then it's Kojo Poku that will be sued for malicious prosecution because he didn't allow the police to do an independent job. You see, that's a distinction. If you just simply, so let's explain it well so that people are not discouraged from reporting cases. If you see it and you go to report, then you allow the police to do their independent work.
Right.
Even if the person is acquitted, there's no wrong for you.
Okay.
But where you know the person hasn't committed an offense, then you concoct evidence. I'll show you where power lies. I'll show you that thing. If eventually the person gets acquitted, he can sue for malicious prosecution. In this case, Agojo's case, I'm telling you that Godfrey Dame cannot look me in the eye and tell me that he had a case against Agojo. No, it was just Machiavellian tactics.
So you're going to sue for, or it's on the table?
Yes.
To sue for the state malicious prosecution.
Yes, against Godfrey Dame.
I see. So and you ask for a consideration of the extension of, or he should be given some kind of contract.
Good. So yes, what I mentioned was that. So if the state is minded to give him an extension of is minded to give him a contract, under the Constitution, Article 199, every public officer is to retire at age 60. There are exceptions, judges, etc. I'm not talking about the exceptions now.
Okay.
But after 199 clause 4 also says that even when a public officer is on retirement, the state can give him contracts, extension, 2, 1, by in total not exceeding 5 years. Yeah, so they can use that to restore him a bit because Godfrey Dame and Kufa, they've just destroyed the man and his whole family. It's good. It's bad. It's extremely bad. The least they can do is that, look, they'll tell IGP Dampare to give him 2 years to start with, so that, remember, Agojo was doing transformation of the police service. IGP Dampare needs that. We need to transform the police service. You see what the military did to our fellow citizens, poison citizens with gutter water, etc. The police are killing citizens. Botiano, and the IGP Dampare's watch, gunned down 9 citizens in Botiano. It's a case that's currently ongoing. You don't even know where it's going. Other human rights abuses in the police system, in the police service. So you need the transformation to continue. And Agojo was the expert on it. He was director of police transformation. So let him come back to continue. Because listen, like I'm happy Professor Tia mentioned John Locke, etc., right? Yeah. So the Locke system of governance, you see, Reagan is noted for being the champion. Yes, when they give you, what they say is that make the state small, right? Security, yes, you want the state to provide for security, etc., right? But when the state turns around and is gunning down citizens, killing citizens, do we have a state? So if you you look at it,
but this is alleged.
What are the people died in Bosniano? PIG.
It wasn't a state that gunned them down, so it's alleged. If
the
if
police
a group of
officers.
police, yes, but it's alleged. It's not
What alleged? They died. Don't say, oh, please don't annoy the families of the people. Bosniano.
So
this is the state. You mentioned the state.
Yes, but yes, but
this
you say
is running in court.
Oh, but you can't say the state. No.
What is the state?
No.
So
when we say the state gunned down, that's stretching it.
What were the police doing?
It's debatable.
No, what were the police doing? Did you send them there?
Gentlemen,
gentlemen, I think that
you're a lawyer. We are on
yes,
TV.
and
When you
that's
say
all.
the state gunned down,
yes.
and the people watching us might not understand it the same as
it's law and speaking, so keep
rogue
quiet.
police. Rogue policemen, please. Rogue
okay.
policemen going out on duty and some incident then gunning down some civilians. It's not the same as the state gunning
It's the
down.
state. Let me explain. Alfred, give me 1 minute to explain. Let me explain. I'm a lawyer. Let me explain this area. This is an area. I teach it
What I'm
all.
saying is
This is not necessary. I think
let's educate.
yeah, but when
You
those
didn't have-
statements are made,
No,
for
but
me,
you
it's a
didn't
problem.
have- no, but you
When you
didn't
say
have-
the state gunned down,
You didn't have an entity called the state wielding a gun.
yes, but don't use it. But don't use it.
Okay,
let me
so
explain.
Unfortunate. Say the police gunned down. Don't say the state. Because we're on TV. People listening to us might end up thinking that who is the state?
So let me explain.
The education needs to go before
Yes,
you do
so
that.
very good. So let me explain how it's done. So in the law of torts, right, we have what we call vicarious liability. Just forget about it. At least you appreciate the substance. So this is it. An employee works for the employer, right? So in this case, the police work for the state, right? So in carrying out your duties, there are certain things, if you go overboard, you may be held personally liable. But in certain instances too, if you are trying to carry out the duty within what you were told to do and you kill or maim or injure other persons, it's the state that's held liable. So when I say the state, for me, they were in uniform, or even you don't even need the uniform, but they were carrying out.
That's what I'm saying. That bit is alleged. Nobody told them to do that.
okay.
So that bit is alleged.
So it's for
nobody
the
told
state.
them.
So
I
this
think
is
that
the
a few
So that's what I'm saying.
certain
That
presumption
yes,
is that
exactly.
they
So
were
let's
doing
not.
it for the state.
No,
so
no,
for
no,
the
no,
state
but
to go
it's-
to
that-
court
that part is
and
alleged.
say that no, they went too far overboard.
Yes, that is
they are
what I'm
not-
saying.
Okay,
that part is
so
alleged.
the gentleman,
because we don't know for a
thank you.
fact that the state
Thank
told
you.
them to do
So
that.
you see,
Let's educate
the
the public,
establishment
please. It's
is
very
that the police, as identified as the agent of the state, acting in that regard. This case is in court. It's running in court as we speak. Prof, Appiagyei, I know you want to leave us, so I want just quickly round up with you on it. At least, unfortunately, we lost him. We lost him on.
I was going
on
to
Zoom.
say something.
Yes.
Yes.
Before
I was
let
going
me
to
quickly say something. You're flowing there.
Hold on.
Still a time.
Could you please round up?
Yeah,
for
just
me.
the last.
Round up
So
for me.
yes.
Very much.
So you asked me about the contract. So I said, so we have to try and restore him because we can't destroy a man like this. He's a hero of our democracy. Article 21 of the Constitution has been given a new lease of breath by Justices Ifya Sewa, etc. Right? Yes. So let's try and do something. Let's reward him that he fought. That so now citizens know that when you say Arab Spring, you've said nothing. And that's for Akufo-Addo came on the back of Arab Spring. And also see citizen Samson Ayenini, let's mention. He came to testify for Agojo. And it was quite a critical part of the defense. Yes, yes. You find the judges happy that he came to show that Agojo never had any intentions of a coup d'etat because he consulted Ladi Ayenini for advice and how to go to the Supreme Court to to challenge certain things that national security was doing. So you don't call such a person a coup plotter.
Right. Well, my brother, Professor Jampo, said something that for me, I loved it. You see, there are two issues that we are discussing.
I'm rounding up on
this.
this.
I am quickly. We have two issues we are discussing. Fear of the rule of law, knowing that if you do the wrong, the rule of law will persist and the rightful thing will be done. It's different from fear within a person not wanting to do the right thing. He said that a woman who spoke in front of Rawlings was applauded by Rawlings. It tells you that the fear within us as human beings not speaking out is not because something will be done. My brother here has always been on TV. Martin has been on TV talking about the president, and he's been here bashing. Nothing happens to him. He's free. So let's not stop. Right. Let's stop this thing.
Okay.
So we're just talking about. He talks about in terms of
quick one.
The law, but that is the law works and works perfectly when there's voluntary submission to the efficacy of the law. It's not by compulsion. The people become responsible, useful, dutiful citizens when they voluntarily submit to the law. If they don't submit to the law works. The law takes its course. That's different from fear. Now, when Professor Jampo says nation of gossipers, I say a nation of whisperers.
Okay.
And a nation of whisperers or gossipers arise or come about as a result of the culture of silence. And the culture of silence is simply the consequences of speaking aloud. And that goes to buttress the thesis that it is fear which makes people whisper or gossip.
Okay.
Okay? So you need to understand how the
dynamics works. Professor Jampo.
Well, I would round up by making a passionate call on President Akufo-Addo. Dear President Akufo-Addo, I don't know you that much, but there is a perception about you, even being held about, by people around you, that you are a very vindictive and unforgiving person. I would respectfully urge you or plead with you that restore Dr. Agojo by doing something to compensate for the destruction of his name, the opportunities that have been destroyed, his family and all that. Let us do, I respectfully urge you and plead with you that if it is possible, give him a certain extension of his contract. It's not going to be the first time that a police officer has had a contract, extended. So just to compensate for the losses, I would respectfully urge you or plead with you that you give him a certain contract extension as a way of proving to people who perceive you as being too vindictive and unforgiving.
Professor Jampo, thank you very much. Now, that issue leads us to our next matter. The Office of Special Prosecutor has now given further and better particulars. They have handed over this Cecilia Dapa case to the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, because the Special Prosecutor says that per his investigations, the money involved in this saga, which has been running for the past 11 months now, is largely within the realms of money laundering, and that EOCO is better clothed with the law to investigate money laundering. There are a few concerns that have been raised by the Special Prosecutor's conclusion on this matter. That is up right after this quick break, because some very interesting detail I'm going to put out for you on this issue here on the key point. So stay tuned in. And we're going to play an exclusive, very quick insert from ACP Dr. Benjamin Agojo. You will hear from him after this quick break. Stay with us.